This episode of the Math Together Show is brought to you by Exemplar's rich and engaging K-12 math performance tasks. Hi, and welcome to the Math Together Show, where thoughtful educators gather and learn together. I'm Dr. Sue Looney.
I'm Heidi Subnani.
And I'm Molly Vokes. Thanks so much for being with us tonight. We are so excited for our guests today. They happen to be friends of ours, and so it's always nice when we get to talk to somebody that we know. And we are going to be talking about this question: what does it mean to truly build knowledge together? And I think that the answer to this question, I think, is kind of along the theme that we've had for this past year. So that's really fun.
Absolutely.
So we would love it if you are watching us live right now to say hello in the chat or let us know where you're watching from. We're always really interested to hear from you. And we encourage you to hit like or leave questions in the chat box. We will be watching that and try and get questions in as we can.
Excellent. Yep. And a reminder that we are here to support beyond this show. If you want resources delivered to your inbox, you can hop on our mailing list. Super easy to do that. You just text Looney to 22828. Also, we've really been spending a lot of time talking about this idea of unfinished learning, and we've created a summer institute called Emerging Stronger that we're real excited about. And so if that is something you are interested in, if you think that your school could benefit from spending some time with some thinking partners about that, check that out. That's on the website, as well as other free resources are posted there at all times.
Yes, exciting. We already have some people chiming in from Lisa from Maine and Chris from Connecticut. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Hi there.
Yeah, fun. And I get the pleasure of introducing our guests. So Callie Herring is currently based on the coast of Ecuador, where she leads global partnerships and oversees the education programs of Teachers to Teachers Global. Originally from rural North Carolina, she studied elementary education before joining Teach for America in Eastern North Carolina in 2013. Callie has spent the last decade across the Americas, teaching in the Dominican Republic, running leadership programs in Costa Rica, and coaching teachers from across the region. She now holds a master's degree in bilingual education and continues to find connections between all of the unique communities that she calls home. Callie's deepest desire is to expand opportunities for students everywhere by using education as a tool for social justice. Her favorite place to be is a classroom, followed by any beach, as long as her rescue pit bull comes along.
Aww.
Yeah. And Allie Jones provides the leadership that enables T2T Global to carry out its mission. Since a trip to Nepal in 2008 opened Allie's heart, she has thrown herself into nonprofit work. Allie feels passionate about empowerment through education and has applied her exceptional skills toward improving the lives of children around the world. Fluent in Spanish, Allie has traveled to more than 30 countries to volunteer, work, study, and explore. On the rare occasions when Allie is in the U.S., her home base is Austin, Texas.
All right, let's bring everybody into the show. Hi there.
Do it.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Hi. Thank you
Hi.
so much for having us.
You're welcome. So we know these two amazing women from work with T2T Global that they're going to get into, but we've been able to be around the globe with them, both in Ecuador and in Guatemala, and including the Galapagos Islands. They were our fearless leaders, and we're just so excited to have you here to share all of your breadth of knowledge and deep understanding about education. Thanks so much for coming. It's great to see you.
Well, we're happy to be here. Thank you so much for bringing us.
Excellent.
Yes. So for those people who are viewing who may not know you, so we're going to start with this question, which lets our our viewers get to know you a bit better. So what is your why? Why do you do what you do?
Great question. I can start. So my why in education really goes back all the way to my experience when I was a student growing up. I am from a rural community, and in my high school, it was really obvious that not everyone in my school had the same experience, even though we were at the same place. And then when I was studying in university, I really learned that also there were really big differences between the opportunities that were afforded to me and opportunities that were afforded to other people who were in my university classes. That we were not at the same page, even though, like, we were not starting from the same page, even though we were in the same place. And then in some of my education, I remember there was a course in particular that was a Foundations of Education course where I really learned language around why that was and began to understand systemic inequities and the impacts of that on education in the United States. And I knew that I wanted to work in communities like my own and create opportunities that sparked hope and agency for students. And I really gained the language necessary to be able to define the problem and explore it deeper. And then since then have just had so many opportunities to serve and be involved in education across the Americas, really, and have really just learned how similar, it was in my bio, like how similar the challenges that we face are, even though the contexts are really different. And so it just really reminds me that, everyone has enormous potential and the opportunities that we're given are not the same. And so as educators, we have the opportunity to support our students to unlock their potential. And that really keeps me going, just thinking about, students and everything that they can accomplish when the adults do the things that we're supposed to do so that they can reach that potential.
I love that. You said sparked hope and agency. That's your goal, to spark hope and agency. I hope you're going to talk about the Girls STEM Club that we witnessed when we were in Guatemala with you, because you live what you talk about. We've seen it firsthand. So thanks so much for sharing that.
Awesome.
Yeah, sure. We'll get into that later. I'll let Alex.
Okay. We'll plant that seed of curiosity.
I'm
And
actually
Allie,
going to bridge a little bit off of the agency idea, because one of the things that is mentioned in my bio is a trip to Nepal, which, when I think about my lived experience, like, that's one of the experiences that I've had that really shaped my thinking and put me on a particular trajectory. And the reason why was because I spent a lot of time in a rural community doing an anthropology field school, learning how to do field research and digging into ethnomusicology, which when I found ethnomathematics, I was like, I found my people. And so I mentioned that to say that when it comes to my why, from my past, that's really what I bring into this space, is kind of that history of travel and curiosity about what do people want and need, and what are the experiences of other people. And what I took out of that was people really want agency over their own lives, and a great way to do that is through education. And so thinking now more towards the future about the why, and why do I believe in the mission of Teachers to Teachers Global, and quality math education is really around critical thinking skills and the communication piece. I think for a lot of people, the critical thinking skills bit is obvious. It jumps out at you. People think math and they think the hard skills, and engineering and STEM and all of these things are really part of the kind of dominant conversation when we talk about math education, especially as it connects to the business world. But for me, what I really see when I watch a powerful lesson is the communication that's happening there, and the emotional skills, the social emotional skills that are being built along with the critical thinking skills. So, I have a lot of friends who work as teams of engineers or programmers, and they talk about communication challenges, or like product managers that work with a lot of engineers and are stuck in the middle and trying to translate between a bunch of different languages and thinking styles. And I think that the way that we're collectively talking about transforming math education and what quality math education can really look like, prepares that team of engineers or that product manager to be able to express and communicate their own thinking, but also really to see the thinking of others and to seek it out and to value it and integrate it into a larger team project and kind of build solidarity in from that place, right? From the ground up, and just like overall approach to how you're entering into the business world, which is shaped from your education.
Yeah.
Wow. I guess that we in the United States are just catching up to you ladies, because this is what the focus has been for a few years, but you've been focusing on this for much longer. So I think the math world is a little bit slow.
Yeah. And no, go ahead, Sue.
I was going to say, I think that communication piece is so interesting. This idea that we can have mathematics in a bubble. Like we've got to have the shared experience with it. And I think that's going to lead us into our key question, and it's going to connect to your why. And so interesting that this came out of this original trip to Nepal, where you were studying the culture and immersed in what was happening there with great curiosity.
Well, and I think as we look at global economies and globalization overall, right, like we're all starting to work more closely with one another and to be more exposed to the experiences of one another. And so the more that we can have a toolbox that prepares us to do so successfully, the more we can control the curve of things like COVID.
Right.
Well, now more than ever, we've had some, if a pandemic hasn't taught us that we all lived shared experience, now nothing will teach us that.
Well, and it's a global society now. And so we don't have, even 40, 50 years ago, it was not the same that it is now, in the sense that all of our children are competing for or going to be thinking about a world stage. And so it is a much different outlook of economy and who has the ability and access to education. And those tools and skills are going to be more and more important. And not only are we going to be creating inequities here in the US with the kinds of educational opportunities that we provide students, but that's happening then on a global level as well. And so I think for all of us, that's something that really speaks to us, in the sense that we want to make sure that we're providing access and opportunity to all students globally, but also honoring the culture and the environment and the learning and history that's been part of their community, and not westernizing in a sense that we have often done in the past.
Oh, let's get to their question then, because I feel like we're heading there already.
Absolutely. So the question that we want to talk about, I think there's a lot of threads that we could pull on here. So we'll restate it, and we'll kick this around a little bit. What does it mean to truly build knowledge together? Where should we start with this one?
When I think about my answer to this question, it is all about a strengths-based approach. I try to incorporate that approach in lots of different aspects of life and work. But when I'm thinking about building our knowledge together, my first thought is how we work with our partners in the field. And what's that first kind of move in conversation and thought, curiosity, that when we have a community meeting or we enter a community for the first time. And I think it's about a commitment to the mindset of, I'm going to look for what's going well here and what's really succeeding, and how can we do more of what's working, and still, of course, have an awareness of places that need more support, but entering into a space with that mindset of, I do some things well, you do some things well, and when we put them together, we can do a lot of really powerful things together. But a lot of that is grounded in data. So needs assessments, and yes, having conversations, but the surveys and the data to be able to complement the conversations around what communities want, need, and how we can best complement each other's strengths as we build a partnership together.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like a lot of that, and Allie and Callie too, I think a lot of that I feel like is missing in schools for teachers. So we want teachers to do this for their students, but they don't always feel that themselves. I feel like teaching is often very lonely and also very sort of competitive when you think about it. I don't mean competition like I'm going to win, but teachers do things over here and I'm the best teacher over here and no one's going to even be seeing me do this. But so I feel like what you're talking about is often missing for adults, which I think is why you're talking about it, right?
Yeah, one of the key components of our theory of change, of what we think is needed in order to build more just communities through quality math education, is a collaborative education community, and one that is working together with a purpose. And so it is something that we talk about on our team. We're talking about teaching kids in a way that's very collaborative, where they're building their knowledge together in classrooms. And so it's absolutely essential that our work with teachers models that, and that if that's how we believe people learn, then that's teachers' experience as well. When they come to the table with us, they're truly coming to the table. They're not coming to receive the knowledge that we have as an organization, and our team is more diverse now than when we first started, so that we have people who are from the countries and communities that we work in who are also on our teams, but also recognizing, every single person there brings expertise. Every single person there brings value. And someone who has a PhD who goes to rural Guatemala and works with a teacher who has a high school degree, like, one of them does not have more expertise than the other. They both have expertise. And then when they are able to collaborate and bring that together and build off of each other, both of them walk away from that, and the students of both are benefited because they're able to expand that worldview and think from another perspective, and challenge their thinking, feel stronger about what they potentially feel stronger about what they were thinking, because they were able to defend that or see that supported in another person as well.
I think the stance of curiosity is so critical, right? So what you're just describing, which is very much what happens with some of the opportunities with T2T Global. You have a professor coming in or someone coming in from the US, and then you're working with a local teacher. And so this curiosity about one another, so that there's not a power dynamic at play here, right? Just making sure that I am curious about your reality, and then I can share with you answers to questions and how I can be here in service of having a more just society. That's the bigger goal. So I think when we enter into relationships and situations like that, it is so critical to be curious, to understand our job is to just be curious. I say it all the time, always be curious, right? But to Molly's point, we're talking about your mission and the work of T2T Global, and we should probably take a step back and kind of define that for listeners that are new to the organization. But also all teachers, we should be curious. We should enter into conversations with learners of all ages, open to their strengths, and like you were saying, Allie, right? What is it that you bring to the table? What is the strength that you have? Interesting.
And I love, Sue, that you mentioned power dynamics too, because power dynamics play such a crucial role in this, and we have to name and recognize that they exist. We don't come into situation. We don't automatically step into a room with an equitable power dynamic, because of the history and this of the countries and cultures and communities. And so we have to recognize that and then take steps to build and create that equitable power dynamic. And so I think that's really important to name too, that it doesn't just happen.
Which is also something that we talk about internally as extrapolating out to the future, right? So we really want to project out and think about AI and the rise of tech and kind of how all of these pieces are going to change society and already are. Power flows, right? And like how we sustain equity is going to have to shift and adapt to the changes in society. Just as things have changed since the Industrial Revolution, they will change again. And our challenge now is to build an education system together that awards students the skill set that they require in order to uphold that equity over time and in that kind of a fluid environment, to be able to respond back and say, okay, things have shifted in my community and the equity that we built no longer works. Like we need to rethink things and constantly challenge the equity that we're building in order to ensure it really is working for everyone and all of us.
So that's so interesting, because I feel that it's the job of the entire school for that to happen. And often we come at it, or at least we at Looney Math come at it through the math lens. And so what we really need is schools to be working on this as a whole, from superintendent on down to whatever. Every person in the school that works there needs to be working on this. And it's so hard to go into schools where you can see inequities and be able to identify them and not have a lot of control. At least for us, we only end up working with math teachers. So that's a struggle, particularly now, I think.
Well, and I think when we consider all of the organizations that we work with and what each of those organizations brings to the table. So, when we look at things from a math lens, I think we're all women in math, and that in and of itself can at times put us in odd positions of, that was not always the way that things were. And so we look at things in some ways from that lens and want to promote and see equitable opportunities for girls in mathematics. But does that transfer? I think that may be something that we've thought about here in the US for a while, but then when we look at other countries, is that happening there? And we could go at it from this is what you're not doing, but what opportunities are we then providing? And how are we having that conversation with the local community that we're working within? And I think that's so critical to consider, and which is often overlooked.
Yeah, and I think what you both just spoke to communicates also the importance of partnership. And so, the problems that we're talking about are not problems that any one organization is going to be able to solve on its own. It really takes us working in partnership with many disciplines, with all levels of the education system, with students themselves, with parents and other community stakeholders. Everyone is needed to be able to build more just societies. And I think about so here's an opportunity for me to bring in the Girls STEM Club that you were mentioning earlier. That has been a really incredible opportunity to build community partnerships, and then also say, our strength is math. And so we kind of thought about it as STEM with a capital M. So we had a Girls STEM Club with a focus on math. And so we would get to go out into the community and visit places and learn about, what was the science, technology, engineering, and mathematics happening in this space. And then we would go back to the school and explore the math aspect of that deeper. And so the girls were exposed to just more opportunities, more that exists in their city that they hadn't necessarily been able to see or live or touch before, and then go back and think, how does this connect to my life? How is this something that I can have agency in too, and building a problem or being able to find a solution to a problem that we uncovered there? Think, what's another way here's how they did it. What's another way that I might think about that? We brought in professionals from the community as well to come and share about their jobs and the way that math showed up in their careers. And then they would get to play math games or solve problems together with the girls after that. And so it is really a beautiful example of community partnerships. And also, a university professor something that she does at ESPOL, which is a university, an engineering university here in Guayaquil. And she has workshops with parents where she'll bring moms in who often, unfortunately, feel like they are not strong in math. And so they're unable to help their students. And she will bring them in and have them do things that they're really good at, that are a part of their daily lives, and then show them how that connects to what their kids learn in school. And so she was able to come too and play games with the girls and do a lot of activities with them where they didn't even feel like they were doing math, in terms of math being like numbers and something hard. And it really modeled building positive identities, positive math identities, and having women and girls be able to say, I'm a mathematician. I'm good at math. I like math. Oh, I do this all the time. This is part of my everyday life. So that's something that's been really fun to see as we've worked on building knowledge together in partnership with many different stakeholders.
Yeah. Really, really neat.
Well, and I think that can be replicated too, right? So we have this idea of this is happening, and we maybe should have started. This is happening in Guayaquil, Ecuador, but this could be replicated in other places. So this is not, while this is specifically happening there, how can that be replicated in each of our own communities? And what opportunities do we have to see and notice the mathematics that's happening in our communities and honor all of the mathematicians that are happening, or all the mathematics that's happening within our community, that everyone can be mathematicians, that we all are because we do math. And so thinking about how that replicates in each of our own communities and how we honor those who bring those skills to the table, I think is really should be one of our roles as educators, that we're looking for and highlighting and emphasizing and showing light to those things that are already happening within each of our communities.
Yeah. It reminds me a while ago, Hadi, I know you did this with me. We did a webinar with the Dream Network, which is affiliated with Stanford University. And they were working with young mothers of preschool children to identify mathematics within the home. And so there were many English language learners, and they approached them in community with they went into their homes and worked together to identify mathematics that we're already doing this. So of course, cooking was a thing, right? And then it was like, well, how can you play cooking with your child? And so then setting the table, we're counting how many plates. And so absolutely, when we work together, which is our question, we build knowledge that honors, and going back to the sparking hope and agency. So nice to think about. I want to move on to how we can learn more from you. And I feel like we were starting to touch on this when we talked about the power dynamics and recognizing the reality. I mean, you've got to name things first. So you've been talking and working on this theme of math for anti-racism. Can you talk to us about what you've been doing in this space and how we can learn more and get involved?
Sure. So our team has been on our own journey of internal learning, that we are wanting to build knowledge together with the world and inviting other teachers, particularly those from the US who would typically travel with us on trips and haven't been able to since COVID stopped travel, into this journey of how quality math education essentially has the power to build anti-racist societies and lead to more just societies. And thinking about it with math for anti-racism, saying quality math education builds the critical thinking skills necessary to challenge your own thinking and change the system. And also then what does that look like in classrooms? And so we have been inviting experts from our network and across mostly the United States. We had a guest recently who is one of our partners in Guatemala as well, to come and have conversations with us about, how can we more equitably define quality education? What does it mean to work in partnerships that share power equitably? What's the generational impact of quality math education? And what's the intersection of social justice, anti-racism, and math? And so we, as an organization, are grappling with these big questions and inviting everyone into the discussion with us. And so we just wrapped up yesterday. We had our final live chat of this season, which was a team reflection. And we're really excited to share that we have created a resource for educators in the Participate platform, where it doesn't cost anything. Anyone is able to join that community and earn a digital badge to go through this learning experience and show their commitment to math for anti-racism, and not just talking about it, but being about it. So here, that link will be available, and in that link, you can join the community. You can watch the conversations that we've had. You can access resources that each speaker has recommended and that also connect to the theme. There's discussions for each episode as well. And then at the end, people are able to submit their vision for, this is what quality math education that leads to a more anti-racist society will look like for me in my classroom. This is the way I'm thinking about it. And then have that collaboration of, community feedback in the discussion through this whole process. It's something people can do on their own time. So that's a really great way to engage with us right now. And we're really excited for everyone's input as we're learning too.
Wow.
Yeah. And we just put that in the chat right now. So we'll reference that a little bit later as we have opportunity. But just if you're watching now, that's one of the places where you can grab it, is right out of the comment section.
Excellent.
Awesome.
And T2T Global, just to back up, we didn't really start there. Maybe one of you can kind of give an overview of T2T Global as an organization and what opportunities and resources are there on that website.
I'll go for it.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see. Our mission is to build quality math education programs through collaborative partnerships that drive greater social justice. So that aligns with a lot of our conversation today. The best way to get involved with us depends on who you are and what you're into, but we would love to plug you in whichever way makes sense for you. So we have a lot of opportunities for educators to get involved in the ways that Callie was just describing, through the online learning platform and a few other opportunities that you can find on our website. But also, you don't have to be an educator to get involved with us. I am not an educator. I have never been a teacher. I have worked with a lot of teams, though, and I have always worked in education. And so we are definitely a community that is also really excited to welcome cheerleaders and champions of teachers, and anyone who really shares our collective belief in quality math education and what it can do for each of us and the world that we're building together.
Awesome.
And I would say too, you have the global math stories are there and available.
Yes.
And I think that's a great resource if you're currently a classroom teacher, that you can access and just use as part of your everyday lessons. I think that one of the things, that I appreciate is just that tie of storytelling and the mathematics in a particular community, which can be really powerful for use within a literacy classroom and within the math classroom. And so I think that's really exciting. And someday we may be able to travel again.
Right.
Someday.
Thank you so much for mentioning that. I also want to mention that those resources are all free. And so if we're a nonprofit, if you do want to support us financially, one of the best ways to do that is by joining the Equity Faction, which is a monthly giving community. So everybody is welcome. It starts at $10, but those contributions really help us to build sustainability into our operations. So that is what it helps us to be able to provide those free resources.
Awesome.
Excellent.
Yeah, and thanks for mentioning that, Heidi, too, with the global math stories. And I can plug that back to when one of our co-founders, Chad McGlone, was on the show previously. So if people are watching now and they haven't seen that, they can search in your playlist to be able to find that and learn a lot more about global math stories.
Yeah, really,
That's right. Yep,
really interesting
absolutely.
stuff.
Mhm.
Really interesting stories.
Yeah. So I think
yeah.
Will, and go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say we want to give the opportunity for the last word as we are wrapping up here. So just giving you an opportunity to share that.
I'll take it. So, as the resident cheerleader, as I was just mentioning, I would say that I'm so grateful for the opportunity to share this space with all of you. I learned so much from all of you as peers and colleagues and friends. So it's really a beautiful opportunity to do so and know that it's being shared with your larger community and ours. I think maybe the last word I would share is just, I think it's really beautiful to think about what can be built within the context of a classroom, and thinking about a really great math class. You're working with really hard, complicated, rich problems, and you're going a lot slower. And if we can take that lesson out into the real world and use that to come closer together as a global community and happier as a society and individuals, I think we can, see a whole new world. So thank you so much again for this, and hopefully it won't be the last time.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for being here. We always enjoy talking to you, and every single time I talk to you, I feel like I learn a little bit more. So thanks so much for being here.
All right. Thank you so much. Be well, stay safe.
All right. Bye, ladies.
All right. Whoops. Okay. So if you want to know more about T2T Global and the Math for Anti-Racism on their new platform, those links are in the chat for you. So you can definitely check those out, and we encourage you to do so. We've been involved with T2T for a while, and we think the world of the work that they're doing.
Yes.
And as we wrap up tonight, just a reminder that we are doing the work alongside teachers and looking forward to helping people think through how we greet our students and turn the page from COVID, and how we can emerge stronger and really frame that positively. And so we've put together this institute. If you are interested in working side by side with us, please check that out at our website. And
yes, so next week we are off, but if you are a member of NCTM and you are planning to attend the virtual annual convention, which is going to be 2 weeks, next week and the following week, Molly and I are speaking next week on integers at 3 o'clock on the 23rd, and we would be really excited to see you there. We do have a question in the comments. I don't know if we want to address that now. Chris is asking, in what ways have we been involved with T2T? And so I can answer that real quick. Chris, Sue and I had an opportunity, it's been 3 years ago now. We served with them in Galapagos and in Guayaquil, and worked with groups of teachers in both of those locations, and which was part of what Callie was doing with the Girls STEM Club. And then 2 years ago, was it 2 years? Yes, 2 years ago, we were all in Guatemala together. So working with teachers there. And so we've really enjoyed that. For me, I have traveled internationally, primarily in religious-based mission prior to that, but I think this is one of those instances where I actually got to use my skills as an educator. So like in other situations, I'm going and doing something that's not in my skill set, but this is a way for us really to be in partnership with other teachers, and we learn just as much from them as we can bring to the table in those instances. So thank you for that question. And
I was going to say, I like to think of myself as part of the T2T family. I feel like we met Chad first, and we were immediately drawn to the energy and the mission of it, and we're able to do what we do, on a pro bono basis in other countries, and we think it's amazing. And so we encourage you to check out the opportunities there, because as much as you give of your time what you get back is life-changing, absolutely life-changing experiences.
sure.
And I look forward. We were on the phone with their founder, Chad, just yesterday or the day before, looking forward to more future opportunities. So if that is of interest to you, check that out. And we hope to see more things happening physically in person and travel, but there's always opportunities virtually and to just sort of support the work.
Yeah.
So can't say enough good about that, right, Molly?
Yeah. Chris, if you have a chance to go to Guatemala, he's saying he had a trip planned and it fell through. Do it.
Yep.
Yeah, it'll come back. It'll come back.
Yeah.
All right.
And next week we're taking a break because here in Massachusetts it's vacation and we have NCTM. So not next week, but the following week on the 28th, we're going to be talking to Lisa McConchy, and that will be an exciting conversation because she is brilliant.
Yes,
absolutely. Thanks everybody for joining us. Remember to always be curious and of course to always be kind. Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Good night, everyone.